Hey guys, it's Stasia and welcome back to my channel. Based on the title, you guys can see that today we will be going over my wrap up. So all the books that I read in March. So in the month of March, I read a total of 15 books, which averaged out to 4,581 pages. Of those, I read 5 that were print, 10 that were ebook, and then 8 of those were like an audiobook mix where I did either the ebook or the physical book with the audiobook. As for the genres I read 4 fantasy, 2 horror, 1 mystery, 5 romance, 2 thriller, and 1 poetry. So that's like my stats and things. So now we will go into the books I read. The first book that I read in the month of March was The One by John Mars. This was actually a gift from my friend Bailey, and I'm so happy she gifted this to me because this ended up being a 5-star read. So this has been adapted to a Netflix series. I've already watched the first season. I'm not sure if there's going to be a second season, but I hope there is. I like the book better, but that's like not a surprise. Basically, the premise of this book is that someone has created a system in which you could find your like true love, like the one person you're meant to be, based on your DNA. So you just have to send it in, and if the person has also sent in their DNA, then you guys get matched. And that's basically the whole premise. There's really short chapters and I really liked it. It was super fast paced. I read it in like less than 24 hours. Like I read it in a day. The chapters are super short and all of them end on like a cliffhanger sort of vibe. I believe it follows 4 storylines. So then like it goes one storyline, the second, the third, the fourth, and then it goes back to the first, second, like it's a cycle. So you'd have to read through like a few more stories before you get back to the same story that you had a cliffhanger on. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but yeah. So that's basically this book. I gave it 5 stars. Like I said, super fast paced, really short chapters, read it in one sitting. It was very engaging. I would recommend reading the book, but the show isn't like the worst in the world. So you could just watch the show if you would like, but that was my first read. Then I read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is like a poetry book, I believe. So like a book written through poetry. I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if that's the correct term, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it basically follows this kid, and he is going down an elevator and meeting like certain people because he is on his way to get revenge on the person who has just shot and killed his brother. So that's kind of what we're doing. It was really, it's like emotional, but I kind of almost felt like I would have enjoyed it more had I had it physically, because I actually read the ebook and I feel like it kind of took me out of like the vibe of it as much as other people would say. I also know that there is a graphic novel, so I feel like that might also be a great way to go if you feel like reading this book. But for me, the ending I wasn't too much of a fan of. It was more of like an ambiguous ending, like kind of keeps you guessing. You're not like, not everything is just tied up in like a bow with like a perfect ending. So I kind of didn't really like that. I wish it was just like straight to the point. But I know some people do like those kind of endings, so if you do, you might like it more. The next book I read was Merciless by W. Winters. I gave this book 1 star, the only 1 star I've ever given in my life. But this book follows a girl who gets kidnapped by this guy, and like his motive, I guess you could say, like he thinks he's doing it for the right reasons. Like he's saying like he's doing it to protect her and stuff, but there's a lot of trigger warnings for this book, and it's like a dark romance. There's loads of trigger warnings. If you are interested in that premise, like you could definitely check it out. Like a lot of people love this book, loads of 5 stars, but for me it was not it. I did not like the premise, and I did not know that what it was what it was going to be. I went into this book pretty blind. It was like a buddy read, with a few people, so I went into it blind just because it was like one of those like free Kindle ebooks. So I got it, we read it, and yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like I understand that it was a real thing, but I just didn't like that they used this. Like I don't know if that's like a trope or like what you would call it, but there was something in the book that I did not like, and I feel like that should not be a storyline. Like, it's not something to romanticize, although it kind of is. I don't know, it doesn't make sense because I can't like say spoilers. So yeah, if you're more interested on like my actual thoughts and you don't care about spoilers, feel free to message me. I would love to give you like an actual explanation. The next book I read was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is a super hyped book, so I had very high hopes going into this one, but I actually ended up only giving it 3.5 stars. So if you don't know what this book is about, it's about this girl who is between life and death. So she goes to the Midnight Library where she has the opportunity to go through and sort of see how her life would have been different had she made like different choices along the way. So like just little things along the way and how that would have changed her life in the end. So that's basically what this book was. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars because although the premise was very interesting, I didn't expect for it to be as repetitive as it got. So it was like a very repetitive story, and unfortunately I didn't really care for the main character all that much. She was just all right to me. Like, she didn't stand out in any way. Like, I wasn't necessarily rooting for her, but I wasn't necessarily against her either. So she was kind of just like there for me. And then towards the ending, she goes into a storyline that she really, really loves. And I feel like that should not have been like the eye-opening sort of world or like situation in which she realized like a lot of things, because I don't like that whole trope of like a man saving a girl or like giving her a reason or whatever, but that's fine. It did actually, and that actually wasn't the ending. So the actual ending was really nice, but like for a second there, like I thought that was going to be their ending, and I was just like, don't really like this. But they did end up reeling it back and having a different ending than that. So I did enjoy it, but yeah, 3.5 stars. The next book I read was In the Woods by Tana French. And I gave this one 2 stars. I read this one for the Shelf This book club hosted by Bailey over at Is Bailey Reading, and it was a total miss for me. This is basically a thriller about a detective who finds this case that is similar to something that he went through when he was younger, basically. So they're like, it's like a detective thriller, I guess you could call them. But if the lighting is changing, I apologize. The sun is going down because I procrastinate too much, but it's fine. We'll just go with it. But anyways, so yeah, I gave this one 2 stars. I didn't really care for it too much because I didn't like how it was written, I guess you could say. There was very long chapters and I did not find them like as engaging as they should have been. Usually for thrillers, I like them like fast paced, like things need to go down. During the discussion, Bailey did mention that it really wasn't a thriller, it was more of a mystery, and I get like that is definitely true. It's not really a thriller, although it's tagged as a thriller a lot. It is more of a mystery. And so I think I had different expectations going in. But because there was like super long chapters, and this was like a super long book in general, I believe it was almost like 600 pages on ebook, and I'm not sure about like the physical book. And I wasn't having it. Like, it didn't seem necessary to me. And then they had like side characters that would just randomly show up. Like, they weren't really a part of the book, but they would just show up randomly, and I felt like they didn't really add much to the story. So that confused me as well. But yeah, so that was a 2 star for me. Didn't care for it. The next 2 books I read were graphic novels, and it was Monstrous Volume 2 and 3. I gave both of them 4 stars. I do really enjoy this series. Unfortunately, my library does not have anything past 3. which I think is rude, so I'm gonna need to find the other volume somewhere else. But I do really like this series. The art style is absolutely gorgeous, and I did like that in volumes like 2 and 3 they were expanding more on like the history and why they got to where they are, because when I read the first one, I was explaining that I felt like I had just been dropped into this world with absolutely like no prior knowledge, and so they really brought in like the background more during like volumes 2 and 3, so I did really enjoy that. The next one I read was a manga, and it was Waiting for Spring. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was really cute, it was really fast, but I feel like in order for me to have liked it more, I need to like read more volumes of it, and I haven't continued yet. But it is like really, it's like a really like cutesy sort of high school vibe, so it was a quick read. Next I read A Sweet Mess, and this was for the Book Boyfriends Are Better book club. I actually was a guest on their live show to discuss this book, so I'll leave that link down below if you're interested in watching it. I originally gave this book 4 stars, but after the discussion I actually ended up dropping it to 3.5, which is totally fine. It was still a good book. There was just little things that I didn't really care for. So the premise of this book is basically this girl runs a bakery, and she gets a bad review from a food critic, but before that bad review is published, she actually like meets this food critic not knowing like who he is and stuff. So it's like that whole thing. One of the main things that I didn't really like, or like I wish there was more of, was baking, because based on the cover and everything, like you really would have thought that baking and like food was a very strong, like it was very strong throughout the book, but it was like hardly touched on, and I felt like it was kind of like a misconception because I wanted more of that and there wasn't enough of that. But on top of that, also the main characters, not my favorite. They did have like the whole miscommunication trope. I'm not sure if that's a trope, but they did have the whole like miscommunication thing go on, and that's something I don't like at all, is like a whole miscommunication thing, but it's fine. And then there is something towards the end that I don't like, but it's like a major spoiler, but that trope I also don't like. And then there was like a giant time jump that was just confusing. So although the book was good, there is going to be a movie coming out, and Daniel Day Kim is directing and starring in it. So depending on how they do the movie, this might be a like movie that might be better than the book. I don't know, we'll need to see, but I am hopeful for the movie. The next book I read was The Right Swipe by Alicia Rai, and I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. It just didn't have like that 5-star feeling for me, honestly. There was a couple things that bothered me about the characters, and like I felt like there was some conflict in it that was unnecessary. The Right Swipe, if you don't know, I believe it's the first book in the Modern Love series, or it's like companion novels. And yeah, so I did enjoy it. It was very nice. There is Samoan like rep, and that made me so happy because I'm an islander, not Samoan, I'm Hawaiian, but there's like no books with any islander rep, so I was just so happy to get that. So I loved it. If you don't know what this book is about, it's basically about this girl who is in charge of a company, kind of like Tinder, you know, like like a dating app sort of thing. And then there's this other guy who is also owns a company that's a dating app, but their like forums are completely different. So they like work together for some reason, and yeah. I don't know what else to say. There are trigger warnings in this one as well, which I did not know, but if you do want to read this one, I would look up trigger warnings first. The next 3 books I read were actually featured in a vlog, so I'm just going to tell you the books and then my ratings, and then I will link my vlog where you guys see me read all 3 of these. So the first one I read was The Visitors by Catherine Burns. I ended up giving this one 3.5, and then I read Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I also gave this one 3.5, and then I read A Killer Harvest by Paul Cleave, and this one was 4.5. So These 3 books were featured in my mini Spooktober reading vlog, so you can go ahead and check that out if you want to know any of my thoughts on the books or things like that. The next book I read was also a vlog, so I'm not gonna go too much into depth in this one either, and that was City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This is the 2nd book in the Mortal Instruments. If you didn't know, I'm reading all the books, like 1 book a month, so I'm on my 2nd one. I did enjoy this one. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, but you guys can check out my vlog to see any like actual thoughts I have while reading it. There are spoilers, but there are spoiler warnings, and there's also a lot of parts where I'm just discussing the book and have no spoilers. So whether or not you read the book, you can still watch the vlog. And then the last book I read was actually gifted to me from the author for a review. So that review will be up on my Instagram soon, if not like before this, but yeah. So that book is Because of Jenny by Brad Neaton. Not sure how to say that, but I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This was a lot more hard-hitting than I had expected it to be. It took me like almost a whole month to read it because I could not sit down and read this book for long periods of time, but it was really good. It's basically about 2 people who both are going through their own things, but in a way find themselves more and help each other when they meet and they create a bond. And honestly, it's such a beautiful bond. Like, you're rooting for them the entire time. I really enjoyed this one. It is a shorter book, but like I said, it's very like hard-hitting, so there are trigger warnings that you would need to look up before going into this book, although I do recommend going into it. The reason why I knocked off a star was basically because I had some issues with like some of the pacing. Like, some of it went super fast and some of it read like really slow, but other than that, it's a great read that it really opens up your eyes to the world of an addict, because one of the main characters is a heroin addict, and it's really eye-opening. It has a lot of social commentary on like how it is to be an addict, how the world views an addict, and it's just not a conversation that is had enough. So there's just that stigma around them that they just can't shake, and it was very sad but very eye-opening. And yeah, that is the last book that I read in the month of March. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down below how you like them, or if any of them are on your TBR, let me know as well. I would love to know what you read throughout the month of March. Let me know what your favorite book or your least favorite book was. But that is all from me. So you can like, comment, and subscribe down below. All of my socials and other places to find me are in the description down below. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!